You're listening to the Bear in Mind podcast, episode number 106.
A podcast uncovering identity, color, and love, where driving yourself crazy is totally sane and curable. Now your host, T. Vias.
Today we're going to be talking about cleaning up your anger. And I realize this is an expression that I've used in several episodes, and I recently said this to my partner, and he said to me, "What do you mean by that?" So I realized that maybe it might be worthwhile to talk about what it means to clean up your anger. And I referenced this also in the last episode, the Verbal Judo episode 105, where any sort of way that you want to improve in relationships, especially in communication, it's any kind of relationship, professional or personal relationship, and you want to communicate better, you want to have better conversations, you want to have intimacy. Communication is not really about finding the right words to say, it's about finding the right emotion. And when you are in that emotion, you will find the words to say. When you are in an emotion like anger, and you go to address something with somebody, you will be coming from a place of anger, even if your words seem really polished and scripted and you've decided this is what I'm going to say, and it sounds really clean as if it doesn't sound angry. I guarantee you the other person will be able to tell it's coming from it's coming from a feeling of anger, and it can be given away in your tone, subtle word choices that you might not even be realizing that you're saying. There's all these kind of little things that we say that indicate anger. And I've read books on psycholinguistics, and it's very interesting because it is very hard to kind of mask your anger, to change your voice, to change some of the words. And this is why, if you're going to be a really good actor, you need to be able to manipulate those things so that you can be in anger when, in fact, maybe in your life you're not feeling angry. So cleaning up your anger. Now, anger is a very reactive emotion. So the first thing about anger is that you need to allow it and process it. And when you do this, it doesn't mean venting. There's no action to actually processing your emotion. There's no reaction. Talking to somebody about it, venting to somebody. Usually what venting does is it brings up your anger more because you're kind of reliving the situation. You're having those same thoughts that are creating that neural path that generate anger in your body. So whenever you allow an emotion, and it's the same with anger, you allow it through your body. And it doesn't really look like anything, and you can't really see that much on the outside. And since it's a fast emotion, you can usually allow it through your body. That's why so much of the advice out there to calm down is to take a breath. And that is also how you can process an emotion, is to take a breath and allow that anger to pass through you. Now, sometimes the anger can come back up again, and to recognize that. And the reason why a lot of times, usually this is my case, why it comes back is that we are resisting anger. We often, in a lot of societies, anger, especially I think it's gender related to women expressing their anger, it needs to be not expressed in certain ways, like in different cultures. There's a certain way to express it. And we tend to mentally resist the anger. We try to talk ourselves out of the anger. Like, oh, I shouldn't be angry. This is petty. That's a very common thing we tell ourselves. This is very petty. I'm being petty. Oh, I'm nitpicking. Those are some of those kind of words we try to use to talk ourselves out of it. And once you're in anger, you're angry. And you need to say, it's okay. I'm angry. I can allow my anger. I'm allowed to be angry for this. That is the very first step of cleaning up your anger, is to process it, not talk yourself out of it, not to minimize whatever it is you're feeling, and to allow it to move through your body. And if you want more information on allowing things in your body and about emotions, I suggest you go to episode 101, which is Emotions 101, where I talk about emotions a little bit more and processing those emotions. So once the anger is there, and you'll know you have processed it and it's moved through you, because you won't feel so reactive. You won't want to go chat with somebody about it or vent about it or go on a Facebook and type something about it or any of those kind of actions. You won't feel a need to take action. And so one of the things is that when it's processed is to write down what comes up for you about the situation that triggered your anger. And I had a situation come up with a friend where I was feeling angry. So I processed that and I felt it over a couple days. It kept coming up for me and I knew I wasn't processing because I wanted to react about it. I wanted to talk to my husband about it. I wanted to, basically feel righteous. I wanted to be I'm right, but anger is not right or wrong. It's just I feel angry and that's it. And so I processed it, and then I was able to write, and then I was able to get the wisdom out of it. That's the second step to cleaning up your anger. It's that even though we feel angry, we can get wisdom and understand our relationships. We can understand our boundaries so much more when we tap into why is it that frustrated us? Why was I angry about that? It'll give us so much more clarity into understanding ourselves, understanding our relationships, and understanding the patterns that we create in relationships, because you want to change that pattern, right? I'm guessing if you're listening to this, you want to change some pattern in anger, in the way you go about your relationships, and not be triggered and all of those things, and show up in a way that you're proud of, show up in a loving way to the people that you love. And so when you can get that wisdom, and I highly recommend not typing on the computer, but writing down what it is from this place after you process it. What was it that came up for you that was upsetting? Why was it upsetting to you? And I have a specific example. My friend asked me a question, and I was angry about this question, right? And it's so easy to say, why are you so angry about this little question? It's just a question. Right? Look I'm already talking myself out of it, but I was angry. I processed it, and then I wrote about it. And one of the things I was saying was, this is an absolutely ridiculous question. She shouldn't be asking it. So already there, when you start to, and I was writing this from a calm place, there was probably still some residual anger as I was writing it. And even if you still feel a little bit of the anger, as long as you feel that the emotion is moving through your body, you don't feel stuck and frustrated in it, you can go ahead and still write out your thoughts, because you're still going to get wisdom out of it. And I realized I didn't think that she should behave this way. And that's already a clue, okay, that's going to tell you already have a script, a manual for somebody that they shouldn't be behaving this way. And well, guess what? She already asked the question. It's already out there. So what do you do? And I can't control her, even though I have tried many times to control people. It never works. And I can put an absolute on that. It rarely works. I guess you can sometimes control people. And here's what I did with some of the thoughts that I wrote down. I thought it was a ridiculous question. Why did I think it was a ridiculous question? And then why do I think that she shouldn't be asking it? And just add a why. So once you've processed the anger, written out what you thought about it, even if there's still a little bit of some anger, write about it, and then ask yourself, just pick one sentence and ask yourself why. Why is it a ridiculous question? What do I mean by ridiculous? Why do I find this ridiculous? Start with the why. And it'll open up so much clarity into how you are viewing your relationships. Already, I'm well, why shouldn't she? Oh, I don't think friends should ask these type of questions of other friends. Now that was interesting, right? Friends to friends, I have certain questions that only two friends, when you're friends with somebody, we're only allowed to ask these type of questions. That was really interesting. And those are those little patterns in your relationships that you are trying to understand. It doesn't mean that you need to break all of those patterns or decide, I actually want to keep this script or this manual, and that's okay. Understanding that that's the pattern. I don't think another friend should ask that of another friend. that is super enlightening. Because all of a sudden, I'm like having this kind of manual for how she should operate, because I think two friends should not be talking to each other like this. And then from there, and understanding why I think it's ridiculous when I answered that question, also, I could see that I had very kind of rigid ways in which I think we should be communicating. When in fact, how could I have that rigid way when she's already behaving this way? She's already doing the things that I don't want, and I get to decide very intentionally whether I want to continue down this pattern, and do I want to change how I answer that question, because there would have been a way I would have answered it out of anger, and now I can change it. And then that's the little way in which you can break those patterns you have in your relationships, by looking at it and then seeing, oh, well, I usually answer this way, or I want to answer this way. Maybe there's some options here. Because when you can clean up your anger, you're not so deep in anger where you just want to react and you want to say something. And oftentimes those things that we say is not the way we want to show up. And then that is what is actually continuing the pattern that we very much want to break. And as you start to do this, as you start to clean up your anger after the fact, like something happens, even if you've already said something that you didn't want to say, still process that anger and write a few sentences about it and ask the question why. And the reason why it even works when you go after the fact to clean up your anger, even if you've already taken action from the emotion of anger, is that you will then be able to do it in real time, in real life, face-to-face conversations. I guarantee that, because that's what I did. I did it after the fact, and then I'm able to see in real life conversations, because I did it after the fact, I'd be like, oh, that's not my manual, that's not my script, and I know I'm angry, but now I know, I can respond this way. And that's what I mean by cleaning up your anger. That's all I have for you this week. I'll check back with you next.
Thanks for listening. Listen for a new episode next Tuesday by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. Bye for now.